Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, I'll be going through the Port Adelaide versus not Hawthorn versus Fremantle. I completely forgot who they played. Going through that practice game at Alberton Oval. Yes, a very small ground from what I saw of it, and an interesting game. I actually watched through pretty much the whole of this game. So I got a pretty good idea of what was going on and what, who was scoring well, etc. But before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into this review. So first off, you'll see Ryan Burton, 125, and then if we go to and we go to Burton, you'll see 579k defender. That's interesting. He could be one to actually go for. He could be one to go for over Elliot Yeo, just because, and that could be one to watch because what is his ownership at the moment? It is probably going to be like 5% owned now. 1.85. That could skyrocket. He could be a very, very good pick. What is he priced at? He's priced at 64. He could easily, just because of their backline, go like 90. If we look at their backline, was it pretty... You had Houston, you had Ali, you had the three defenders, you had Farrell, but he was on the bench for that, but I expect him to be best 22 for that, so I expect him to play. But yeah, 13 marks, I definitely think it's inflated, but how inflated is it? Is it a 5 points, a 5 points inflated, 10 points inflated, 15, 20, I think it's generally probably 30 points inflated from what he usually will do this year. I think he could be a 90s guy, and at 64, I think there's a little bit potentially more value. It's just, are you going to go against the likes of a Elliot Yeo, or are you going to go smaller in the midfield to have basically a full defense? I don't know exactly, because if you go with Burton and he doesn't really work out and he's only a 90s guy, you kind of still have to trade up to him. Yes, he's gained value, but you still... It's a tough one. But I definitely... Now he's thrown up... he's thrown into the conversation about what to do with that D4, D5 range. Hayden Young, 114, yeah, lock him in. He's fine. He's absolutely fine. And yes, Caleb Strong had a bad game. Brayshaw had a bad game, but he is fine. And so yeah, he is fine with the midfield. And 2 goals, 3, obviously, won't do that regularly, but he's still going to be a 90, 100 guy, and that is best. That is top 6, top 8 for defender, and that's totally fine. Like, he didn't even get the marks that he usually, that I think he still will accumulate as a midfielder, especially on the smaller ground, as they played Port, who dominated the ball, as you can see with this. So yeah, I expect him to still generate 4 or so marks per game as a midfielder, and I think that'll pretty much cover off the goals and behinds that he scored in this game. So I still think he can be a 100, 105 guy, but I think it's pretty safe to say he should at least be high 90s, if not 100. Houston, 114. I thought he looked really good, and there's a question now. Houston, Sheasel, Stewart. There is questions marks there with Stewart. A little bit, as we went through in the last video with the Stewart 61 off 68% time on ground, but I think a lot of people are overlooking that, looking into that too much and being like, oh, he scored 50 less than Houston, therefore got to go with Houston. Houston just racked up the ball in the Port backline as they absolutely dominated Freo, who I don't think are going to be that competitive this year. So I don't think that's too much of a worry, and I think Stewart just took it so easy. So I think that they're generally going to score roughly the same, and so I don't think there's too much worry about that. I'd rather go with Stewart over Houston at the moment, just because of Houston has 2 or 3 bad games a year. Rosie, 112, yeah, really liked him. 73% time on ground. He is going to be absolutely fine. And now with... I know that Butters will play. I know that that's going to happen, and I know people are going to be like, why have you already traded out Butters and going against him? The thing I didn't like about Butters is that it was said by Rosie in the post-game that Butters has already tweaked his ankle in training this preseason, and now has done it in a game as well. Yes, it's not going to be that bad that he's going to miss round 1. I think he's still going to play, but he's already done the same thing twice. What's the odds that he's going to just do it again and then be out again because of that? He's already had it flared up twice now, and he's an injury guy in the past, so I'm just a little bit more worried that I can go for another guy there and have potentially more just injury-free season. So I'm just a little bit off by Butters, and I think the general community is off of him as well. If we go to Butters here, you'll see ownership now at 22%. I expect that to further drop into the probably even to the 15-14% range. But you'll also see that LDU is going to drop massively after that. 9% owned now. So I may just flip LDU back to Butters. But then again, that would be having 3 from the Port midfield, which I don't think I can really start 3 from the Port midfield. But yes. 112 for Rosie. Farrell 101. Wines 95. He looked great. So there's that. Boat 94. Horn Francis 91. He looked good as well. So all these guys, it's just a problem if they absolutely dominated the ball. So I think their points are slightly inflated of what they'll actually do. So it's just about picking the right one. Mead 90. Probably a good, I think, super coach because he's almost basement, but not fancy relevant. I don't think. Yes, he did score a 90. You're seeing that, and I'm not saying. And he's not really fancy relevant. I don't think just because of his price point. But I think some people will obviously jump onto him. What is he now? Mid forward, 393k. I just think that we'll have to see what he does in the actual season, but I don't think he's going to pull out a 90 too regularly, to be honest with you. Mid forward probably makes it a little bit easier to jump him in there, but I just don't think you can select him at the moment. Then we got Sarong, 85. He just took it easy. Jordan Clark, 81. He looked good. His role looked good, but 6 tackles for 2 marks was a little bit weird, but just showed that he can score without the marks. So will be interesting to see what he does put up in round 1, because I don't think I'll be selecting him, but I'll have to look at the crowd, because sometimes you just have to cover off players because some teams have them, and if you miss a guy like potentially say a Dacos or something like that, if he's like 80%, you were going to get absolutely burned. So there's times when you have to cover off guys. Willie Rowley, Jace Burgoyne, Brayshaw, Luke Ryan. Brayshaw, he looked fine, to be honest with you. I know that his scoring doesn't look the best, but it's a practice game. We saw LDU put up, 40 odd or whatever. So he'll be fine. Luke Ryan, 78. I think Luke Ryan potentially does eat into Jordan Clark's potential, and with another still 2 weeks of him recovering, it should be fine, and that's why I'm not so sure about Jordan Clark. Drew, Walters, McIndy, Dixon, Zerk Thatcher, Radagalia, Lear, Darcy Burn-Jones, no one here, and then we get down to Nat 5. 26 touches, absolutely brilliant. Outside of saying he's got 26 touches, he really did nothing. He had, I think, 3 free kicks against, or maybe even 4. He had 18 handballs compared to the 8 kicks, which is another red flag. Only 2 marks, another red flag, and then also only the 1 tackle, another red flag. So he just looks super coach relevant, but not fantasy relevant, as simple as that. And that's why I don't think I will end up starting him, because I think his floor is probably a 45, but I think his ceiling is like a 75, whereas someone like a Billings or even another one of these wingers that can easily get +6s can easily have a 100 game, and I don't think Fife has that in him. Aish, Soldo, McDonald, Voss actually looked really good early, but then faded obviously as a forward would do. I think he was playing forward. 1 goal, 11 touches, 3 and 3. He did really well early, and then nothing in the second half. Switkowski, Sweet, I think loses the battle to Soldo, to be honest with you. Sweet ended up 43% time on ground for a 51. I hope he plays, because if he plays, it will be a slight rejig of the structure to get him in, as that'll cover the likes of Grundy and also Gorn in rounds 5 and 6, and give us basically they only burn 2 points per game downside for having that early buy, but you get that early price rise, etc. out of them comparative to Sherry. Sharp, 51, he looked alright, went on he didn't start well, but he came home really strong, and 51 for a rookie in a bad game for him is alright, and I think he should be pumping out 60s pretty regularly. I think he's going to be able to get the non-disposal points needed as a winger comparative to some other teams that go more central through the corridor. I think that Freo will use their wingers, and that's why I think Jeremy Sharp can almost replace Liam Henry and do that sort of 70-75 role. Miles Bergman, 49. Cooper Simpson, 42. And he looks on edge for best 22. From what I can see, and other Freo fans will comment on this. But I think he's going to be one of downgrade targets, as simple as that, early on in the season. I think he gets a game early, but I don't think it's necessarily round 1, but we'll see with that. He may be one that you leave at 200k because the most damage that he can do is he scores 100, goes up to 250k, and then you use a 260k starter that goes up to 280k and drop him down to Cooper Simpson. Simple as that. So yeah, I think it's more damaging to go start a Cooper Simpson, him fail at 200k if he debuts in round 1, than to start a Kai Lohman or something like that at 250k, them do well in round 0, round 1 or whatever, get up to 280k, but then Cooper Simpson smashes out 100, goes up to 260k, and you just trade down. Because it's almost the adage of start the higher price guy instead of the lower price guy. Marshall, Jones, Johnson didn't look too good. I don't know if he'll necessarily be best 22. O'Meara, Pearce, Evans, Pearce, Wormer, Hughes, Lord, Tracy, Williams, Sean Darcy. I think he played a half and then just sat. He couldn't be bothered. Reedy, Taberner, and then Butters went out really extremely early. 11 points on 9% time on ground. So yeah, he's a watch. Just watch his ownership, and just in case you may have to cover him off. But I don't necessarily like him too much already because there's been injury issues in preseason. But yeah, that pretty much is the review of these games today, but also just this game in general between Freo and Port. And I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow for the last 3 games, and then Wednesday, Thursday, you will see my big videos in prep for round 0 and round 1 and just the AFL season as a whole as we really go into gear now. So yeah, that's the video, and I'll see you guys in the next game recaps tomorrow. Bye guys.